August 16, 2012. Cochranton, Brandy Stevens loved Jade Olmstead, one of the two women who confessed to savagely beating her and burying her in the woods near Cochranton this spring. Stevens met Olmstead on a social media site in 2009 and in time became her lover. Friends said Stevens, a 20-year-old from Mahoning County, Ohio, still loved Olmstead even after Olmstead left her in the summer of 2011. I think she tried to date other people after that, but after a couple dates, she was over them, and I think it was because she compared everything to Jade, said Stevens' friend. Tara Haynes, 28, of Boardman, Ohio. Olmstead, 18, and her new lover, Ashley Barber, 20, confessed to beating and strangling Stevens on May 17 and hitting her so hard with a shovel that the second blow exposed her brain. State Police Trooper Eric Mallory testified during a preliminary hearing for the two women on July 25. They also confessed to throwing a rock at Stevens' face and pouring water down her nose and mouth when they realized that she was still breathing as they prepared to bury her, Mallory said. Stevens suffocated on dirt, according to results of an autopsy by Erie County forensic pathologist Eric Vey. It was a death that no one deserved, and especially no one as caring as Stevens, said Haynes, who heard details of the killing during the July preliminary hearing before Vernon Township District Judge Michael Rossi. Brandy was just there for people, for everyone, and it was always positive, Haynes said. Crossed paths Christy Horvat, 26, of Boardman, was a childhood friend of Stevens and gave the eulogy at her funeral. Horvat said Stevens first met Olmstead 3 years ago, and that Olmstead later moved in with Stevens at Stevens' grandparents' home near Boardman, though her grandparents didn't approve. Brandy was hiding her. She'd wait for her grandma to go to work, and then Jade would come over. She'd not be around when her grandma got home, Horvat said. Jade was one of those girls that found someone who'd give her attention and take care of her, she said. Brandy did that. The relationship ended one night last summer. Stevens told friends that she was working a late-night shift at Target when Olmstead took her iPod and cash and sneaked out through a window, Haynes said. Brandy was angry, but she forgave Jade. She loved her, Haynes said. Olmstead moved in with Barber at 29558 Drake Hill Road this spring, about 3 weeks before Stevens was murdered on May 17. Olmstead and Barber previously had been a couple. During high school in East Liverpool, Ohio, Barber's mother, Marie Barber, said. Jade this spring had tried to get Ashley to move to Baltimore, where her parents are, Marie Barber said. We didn't want Ashley to go that far from home, so we made the big mistake of asking if Jade wanted to come up here. Ashley Barber's previous relationship with Olmstead and her family was troubled. Barber had once confronted Olmstead's parents and was removed from their home by police. Jade had lied to my daughter and convinced her that she was being abused at home. And Ashley felt like she had to do something, Marie Barber said. Olmstead more recently told the Barbers that Stevens abused her, Marie Barber said. Ashley Barber told police that she and Olmstead had invited Stevens to Cochranton to scare her in retaliation, Trooper Mallory testified. Olmstead kept in touch with both Barber and Stevens after the breakups, family and friends of the women said. Brandy and Jade would be in contact off and on. Brandy would go see her sometimes, and Jade would be nice to her. Then a couple days later, Jade and Ashley would be sending her mean messages, Haynes said. Stevens at one point decided to take Olmstead's number out of her cell phone and gave it to Haynes in case she would one day want it again, Haynes said. Stevens did want the number again, in February. When she texted to ask for it, Haynes said. I pretended like I didn't even get her messages. I didn't want her to contact Jade. I knew it was bad news, Haynes said. But Stevens somehow got the number and was in contact with Olmstead again. And in March went to bring her home from Baltimore when Olmstead asked for a ride, Horvat said. Brandy loved her, so she did it. But Brandy would have done that for anybody, Horvat said. The killing. In May, according to police, Olmstead and Barber invited Stevens to visit with the intention of killing her rather than scaring her. Olmstead met Stevens when she arrived at the Barber house on May 17 and took her to the woods behind the house to show her a fort that she and Barber were making, Trooper Mallory said. Barber was hiding nearby. Together, the two women punched and kicked Stevens, stuffed a knit cap in her mouth to stop her from pleading for her life and screaming, and then ratcheted up the beating, hitting her with a shovel, choking her with a rope, and slamming her head against a stump. Mallory said. They ultimately buried Stevens in a shallow grave they had ready at the fort and covered it up with branches and leaves, Mallory said. Stevens' grandparents reported her missing to Beaver Township Police, near Boardman, on May 19. The search for Stevens shifted to Crawford County after police determined that her cell phone had pinged a tower in Meadville. Horvat first heard that Stevens was missing from a mutual friend on May 19. Stevens had texted the woman on the day that she left home to tell her that she was going to the Barber's address on Drake Hill Road near Cochranton and had a bad feeling about it, Horvat said. Horvat went to Drake Hill Road on May 20, but wound up turning around at a nearby church. It was nighttime. It was dark. And I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. It was a dirt road, and I was looking for tire tracks, anything. I had lost my signal on my GPS and thought maybe she had, too. I didn't see any tire tracks. I turned around at the church. And I went home, Horvat said. Horvat had texted Olmstead to tell her that she was coming. Jade's response was, "Be careful. It's no man's land out here. And it's bear hunting season." I googled it, and it wasn't bear hunting season, Horvat said. Then she texted me and asked, "Are the police doing anything?" which was also strange. Horvat went back to Drake Hill Road 2 days later with Stevens' mother, Carrie Stevens Rosine, Stevens' grandparents, and Horvat's mother and sister. They'd gone to Meadville to show Stevens' picture around when they learned that her cell phone had been used near Linden Avenue. Finally, Brandy's mom called Jade and said, "I'm coming to talk to you," Horvat said. When we got to the Barber home, we stood in the front yard and Jade and Ashley came around the house. Jade was nervous and Ashley was defensive. They said they'd never seen Brandy, Horvat said. Police found Stevens' car at the Barber house that evening. Brandy's car was in the garage the whole time we were standing in the drive. We were close. We were so close, Horvat said. Barber and Olmstead's story changed after police found the car. They admitted that Stevens had come to the house and said she'd gotten a phone call soon afterward and had gone to meet a friend, leaving her car behind. Barber next told police that her father had killed Stevens. She and Olmstead confessed to the killing after police told them that they had found Stevens' body, Trooper Mallory testified at their preliminary hearing. Stevens' body was found by a state trooper during a search of the Barber property and nearby woods.